Hey everyone, Tony here, JP Wisco back with another video for you. So today I just wanted to do a quick contest response for Rick over at Vintage Oddball Cards. If you haven't seen Rick's channel yet, do check it out. It's an awesome channel. He shows what you might expect vintage oddball cards, right? So he shows a lot of rare or obscure vintage cards. Great channel. It's one of those things where he deserves more subscribers than he has, so definitely go check him out and subscribe if you haven't. So Rick's running a contest, and he wants to know sort of your thoughts and to see some examples of off-center and miscut cards. So I don't have too many really off-center or miscut cards in my collection, but I do have a few and a couple of these. So what I'll do is I'll show you a couple of these examples real quick, and then kind of give my thoughts on my standard for miscut versus merely off-center, right? So I don't think that's 100% clear, right? Like, so I kind of want to give you my thoughts about where I draw the line and so how kind of I define both of those. That is off-center compared to actually miscut, right? So here's a couple of, I looked through my 1990 Topps binder, and I found is this Dave Winfield. So here's a, whoops, I got to get this focus on auto. Here's a Dave Winfield from 1990 Topps. As you can see, top to bottom, this is egregiously off-center, right? And then I also have, I also found this 1990 from the same, right? This 1990 Topps Mark Lemke that is also hideously off-center, top to bottom. Of course, the bottom being, you know, the top is nearly cut off. So I suspect if I, you know, sent these two cards in to PSA, for example, and I decided to get grades with qualifiers on them, that these would come back with an MC or miscut qualifier. The top border of the Lemke and the bottom border of the Winfield, it's almost gone, but not quite. Here's what I'll tell you. I disagree. I don't think, personally, I don't consider these cards miscut. I still consider them merely off-center. Even though they are hideously, egregiously off-center, I still consider them merely off-center, not miscut. Here's why. So for me, a card is, if it's a bordered card, like these, a card is merely off-center still and not miscut as long as some border remains on all sides. So as you can see on these, right, the bottom, there is still a little bit of bottom border left, and there is still a little bit of top border left, a teeny tiny bit of top border left, right? And as you can see on the backs as well, there's still, well, there's still a little bit of border left there too. So this is why I consider these still off-center and not miscut. Borders, and there is no remnants or evidence of another card on the sheet. And that's important too. That's my standard for miscut, right? Let me show you no border on one side, at least if it's bordered, and remnants of another card. So here's a card in my collection that is miscut by my definition. So this is a vintage Japanese Manko card that I showed on my channel recently. I don't know the precise dating, but I think it's between the late 50s to early 60s, sometime in there. Now, the front doesn't look too bad. You can tell it's off-center. But let's take a look at the back, right? So the back, as you can see over here, there is a part of another card on the sheet kind of running onto this card. So for me, that's miscut, right? So whereas the Lemke and the Winfield here, these, although again they would probably get an MC qualifier from like PSA, I don't consider these miscut. There's no remnants. I shouldn't say what's the word I'm looking for. There's no sort of part of another card on the card at all, and they are bordered cards, and the borders are still intact on all sides, no matter how small on the one side. So for these, this, in my opinion, is off-center, and this is a true miscut card. Even though, as I said, I think PSA would consider these miscut. Like, if I were to get a qualifier, they would probably come back with an MC, right? So that's my standard. Miscut, part of another card from the sheet on the card. If it's a bordered card and one of the borders, front or back or both, is chopped off, then that's a miscut, right? So Rick also wanted to know sort of what would compel you to buy a card even if it is miscut or off-center. So for me personally, when it comes to vintage cards, I'm a big corners guy. So if it's a vintage card, and whereas, you know, some people are like centering junkies, but I'm more of like a corners junkie with vintage cards. I like nice corners. So if it's a card that has, if I have two options and one option is pretty off center, but it's got nicer corners that are pretty sharp, and the other one has kind of round, pretty feathery corners, but it's dead centered, like, I'll probably pick the one that has better corners and is off center. So off-centering, like if I found a really nice vintage card at a good price and the centering was kind of like this, but it had decent corners, it wouldn't bug me too much, and I might pick that card up. Now, miscut is another story, right? Miscut, where by my definition there's some evidence of another card from the sheet on the card. A border is chopped off completely. That might be, I might purchase a straight up miscut card. You know, it's kind of, I'd have to go on a case-by-case basis, right? So I would have to, you know, if it's got great color, you know, kind of this subjective standard where I kind of have to go case by case, I would consider a miscut card. You know, if it's a rare, really nice card that I can get at a great price compared to one that isn't miscut, then I might not sweat it too much. So all I can say about that is that I am willing to buy miscut cards, but I can't say for certain what the standards are. I'd kind of have to go on a case-by-case basis. Of course, the other factors, sort of the corners, the color, how rare is the card, and things like that. But bottom line, I am willing to buy miscut vintage cards. It kind of just depends on some of those factors. So one more time. So my standard, off center, my Dave Winfield's upside down. Off center, board, and now my Lemke's upside down. And now my Lemke's upside down again. So off-center, borders are still intact. These are not miscut in my opinion. They're just very off-center. No evidence of another card. Miscut, full-on miscut. Evidence of another card from the sheet on the card. So, all right. So that's kind of my rundown, my opinion on miscut and off-center cards. Once again, the contest is by Rick's putting it on. Rick over at Vintage Oddball Cards. Again, that's Vintage Oddball Cards. Go check out his channel. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Peace. Oh, and by the way, Rick, congrats on 300 subs. you deserve a lot more. So, all right, good luck to everybody who's entering. See you guys later.